Well, good evening, Sumter School District boys and girls, and welcome to a special edition of Reading with the Superintendent. Tonight, we're going to read to you as it relates to Veterans Day. And because you actually had the day off, I want to provide you with an opportunity to engage your mind with reading. And tonight, I have a very special guest with Colonel Sullivan, who is here with us at Shaw Air Force Base. Well, good evening, Colonel Sullivan. How are you?
Good evening, Dr. Martin-Knox. Thanks for calling me into this. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So because many of our students who are watching haven't seen you, why don't you take time to introduce yourself to our viewers and to tell them something exciting about the military?
Yeah, you bet. So my name's Larry Sullivan. I'm the commander of the 20th Fighter Wing, and we're responsible for keeping Shaw Air Force Base up and running every day. Here at the base, we have a lot of missions going on. If you've driven over by the highway in front of the base, you've probably seen jets or heard them flying over Sumter and across the county. So we have about 79 F-16s here, which is a supersonic fighter jet that can help defend our country. And we also have the headquarters of an Army organization, another big Air Force organization, and we have pilots here that are operating drones out of Shaw Air Force Base all the time. And so we've got about 8,000 or 9,000 people that come to work here every day. Almost all of us live in the Shaw Sumter area, and there's a really good chance that some of your classmates, or maybe even you, have parents that work here on the base.
I'm sure they do. Well, before we begin to read, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the servicemen and women who protect our country each and every day. The work that you do is admirable, and I just want to say thank you. Just publicly say thank you for all that you do.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. We're happy to live down here. It's a great community to be a part of, and I'm married and I have 3 children here as well, and we love it here in Sumter, and it's a new home for us.
Yep. So tonight we're going to read Granddad Bud, a Veterans Day story. So I'm excited to read, but before we begin to do that, I just need to make sure I have everyone's attention. So as soon as I do that, we're going to jump into the reading, if you're okay with it.
I'm ready.
Okay, so let me get their attention. So 1, 2, 3, all eyes on me.
1, 2, all eyes on you.
Let's begin to read Granddad Bud, a Veterans Day story by Sharon Ferry. Colonel Sullivan, it's yours.
All right, thank you. Today is Veterans Day. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I do know it's something to do with all the people who fought in wars for our country. They're called veterans.
I have family who are veterans of the military, and one is actually my father-in-law. He actually was in the Navy. So again, thanking every serviceman and woman for their work. My granddad, Bud, is a veteran. He was in the Navy in World War II. That was a long time ago. I know, because he was a young man back then, and now he's 90 years old. Wow, Granddad Bud, thank you for that. 90 years old.
Granddad Bud is coming to my school today. For Veterans Day, our school's invited some veterans to come in. We're having an assembly that was organized by some of the teachers and parents. There are going to be some speakers, including Granddad. Our school band is playing, and we're having refreshments afterward.
Look at that banner, welcome veterans. Absolutely. I wonder how many of our viewers have veterans in their families. I'm going to challenge them to find out. I don't really know what Granddad Bud is going to say. I sometimes hear him tell stories about the war when we were at family parties. It doesn't seem that interesting to me, just like Veterans Day doesn't seem like a real interesting holiday. Not like Halloween or the 4th of July. I hope Granddad Bud changes that perspective of the importance of Veterans Day.
My class is ready for the assembly. We sit on the floor as the principal talks and introduces all the adults who are here today. Granddad Bud walks in and he waves to me.
It must be exciting. Very much so. Wow, he looks really important wearing his jacket with all the medals and ribbons on it. All the kids stopped talking and looked at him as he steps up to the microphone. Even Jacob, who hardly ever stops talking. You must be interested in what he has to say. That's great.
Granddad Bud clears his throat and looks out at the audience. He tells us that Veterans Day was started in the year 1919 and was originally called Armistice Day. It was meant to celebrate peace after the First World War. Years later, it was changed to Veterans Day as a way of honoring all veterans from all the wars that had taken place.
Great point. I wonder how many of our viewers knew that it wasn't always called Veterans Day.
And it's been 101 years this year. So it's not that old, not as old as our country.
Yeah, that's a great point. He tells us ways that people sometimes celebrate the day by going to parades, visiting veterans in hospitals, or making cards and collecting things to send to veterans groups. The President of the United States lays a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier, which is a grave near Washington, D.C. that honors all veterans who never made it home.
You know, Dr. Martin-Knox, we used to live right next to that cemetery at Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh, wow.
And we worked right next to this. And I don't know if you knew that, but the soldiers that you see marching in this picture, they're there 24 hours a day, every single day of the year. And they guard. So it's called the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So we don't know who the name of the person or where they came from that's buried in here, but they were an American, fighting to defend our country. And so to pay them their respects, our country keeps guard over that tomb every single day, all day long. And it doesn't matter what the weather is, if it's raining or snowing or really windy, they march back and forth across this black strip right here in front of the tomb and with their weapons guarding it all the time.
Wow, that's a great point. And again, it's always great to read and to engage with individuals who are so knowledgeable. And so I hope that our viewers are taking in this important information. Thank you for sharing that. Then, I'm sorry.
I need to practice taking my turn, I think. That's what I need to do.
No, you're fine. You go ahead.
Then Granddad Bud talks about being in the war. While he was in the Navy, he lived on a ship for over 2 years. He worked in the control room down below the deck. He and his friends worried about their ship being attacked. And sometimes it was by enemy submarines or enemy planes. Granddad Bud tells us that Japan was the enemy way back then. There were other countries that were fighting each other too during World War II.
Granddad Bud missed his family when he was away fighting in the war. He would get letters, but sometimes it was hard for the mail to be delivered to his ship, and he wouldn't hear from his wife and daughter for a long time. Sometimes they didn't get a letter from him for a long time either. Then they would worry that something bad had happened to him. It has to be very difficult because that happens even now when our servicemen and women are called away, and sometimes their families may not hear from them. So they just have to make sure they are praying and hoping for safety.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell a little story right now, Dr. Martin-Knox, if that's
Sure.
okay. Granddad Bud in this story, he's very old, right? But he was young when he served in the military. And so right here at Shaw Air Force Base today, we have hundreds and hundreds of airmen and soldiers deployed from our base overseas right now, and they're fighting. And so just like Granddad Bud was concerned about his safety on the ship, and like his family was concerned about him, many hundreds of those airmen and soldiers that are overseas right now, their families are here in Shaw and in Sumter, and their children attend your school district. And so if you're watching this, you may have one of your parents tonight that's overseas, or it's very likely that one of your classmates in your grade or in your school has a parent, and their parent is becoming a veteran right now because they're over there fighting. So this isn't something that just happened in a book a long time ago and the granddad's telling a story. We have new citizens that joined the military just in the last couple of years that are becoming veterans today because they're overseas and serving. So the stories, it tells us about our history, but it also is something that's happening right now too.
Well, you know, I think that just having you read with us tonight is amazing, but I think the expertise and the knowledge that you bring to us is just absolutely amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And I also want to send a message out to our students who have their parents, and many of their parents who are away, as you've indicated. And that's why it's most important for me as a superintendent, our principals, our teachers, our support staff, to not only take care of all of our children, but to give special attention and care for those students who are here and their families are separated as a result of the work that they're doing.
Oh, thank you for saying that. And, you know, that's tough. It was tough for Granddad Bud when he was overseas, and I've been overseas while my family was back here in the States. My wife is also in the Air Force, and so she's been overseas. So, you know, our daughters, we have 3 little girls, their mom, you know, was gone and serving on trips. And so it's always really exciting to have a chance to talk to them. And kind of like we're doing right now on this video, we have FaceTime and better phones, and we can text and things like that. And that wasn't the case in Granddad Bud's, you know, time. And really, that's kind of a new development for us in the past couple of years. But it's interesting to think that, you know, some of your kids, some of your classmates, you know, have, like you said, have the parents that are gone and they're worried about them, you know, so that's on their mind. And it might be something they'd be interested in talking about.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice and information.
Okay. Nothing bad did happen to Granddad Bud, but some of his friends died in the war. He says it still makes him sad to think about all of the brave men and women who lost their lives fighting for their country. He says that we should pray for them and for all the people who are still serving in the military to help America to continue to be a free and great country.
I just hope that our students recognize the importance of living in America, the land of the free and the free, that they just don't hear those lines, but actually admire and adhere to what we're saying. So I look around me, everyone is still, and they're all looking at my Granddad Bud. They seem to be amazed at his story of being in the war. When he's finished, some of the other veterans have a turn to talk. One of them was in the Vietnam War in the 1970s. One of the women served in the Gulf War in the 1990s. I can tell that all the kids think these veterans are really brave. They really are. Not only are the characters in this book really brave, but Colonel Sullivan, you and the Mrs. are very brave, and so are your daughters. They're very brave to continue to move forward, and at any time their parents could be deployed, but they know that they can reach out to you and you can reach out to them as well. So, you know, again, I admire you and your wife for the work that you do in terms of serving and protecting our country.
Thank you. After the assembly, I get to talk to Granddad Bud. He winks at me as I walk over to him with some of the kids in my class. Lots of kids are gathered around him, asking questions about the war. He's very patient and answers each one. I feel so proud of him.
And he should be. One of the students asks Granddad about the Veterans Museum, which is not too far from here. He tells us that we can visit anytime we want and that schools can even go on field trips there to learn more about veterans and the wars in which they fought. He said that the slogan of the museum is learn, honor, remember. Powerful. Very powerful.
So Dr. Martin-Knox, just about 2 weeks ago, the city of Sumter and the county of Sumter opened a Veterans Park. So it is right next to Shaw Air Force Base on the highway. They have multiple statues. They have memorials that talk about some of the people from Sumter County that have served in the armed forces. And they have a number of flags. The United States flag is the most important one. And they have flags representing each one of the branches of the armed forces. So the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine Corps. And they were making note that they need to go get a Space Force flag because that's the newest branch of our service here, and they're just getting established.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you to mention it, and I hope that our students who live here in Sumter have the opportunity to go to visit, but I also want those students who are not here in Sumter to visit South Carolina and come to Sumter and actually see what is happening here. And so learn, honor, and remember. I think that's what Granddad Bud helped us to do today, but I hope that listening to you read, Colonel Sullivan, and sharing your stories, that our students also learn and remember and honor. So even though we've read to make sure our students are engaging in reading and we recognize the importance of reading, I also want them to know the importance of what you do in so many like you do. And so again, I said it at the very beginning, thank you. I appreciate you. I admire you. And thank you for all that you do. And thank you for spending time with us reading this evening.
Well, Dr. Martin-Knox, I want to say thank you in return. I know for our service members that are currently overseas, and I'll speak for myself, when I was overseas and my family was back home, knowing that our children had good schools to go to, that they had administrators and teachers and faculty that cared about them and were teaching them when I wasn't there to help with the homework, and reading to them when I wasn't there to do that the entire time. And knowing that my children have good classmates that care about them and that want them to be happy and they're good friends to them, it was really important to me and allowed me to focus on the job that we had when we were away. And all of that goes together. We need to know that our families are taken care of back home so that we can safely do the jobs that we need to do when we're overseas, and then we can come back home and be with them soon. So thank you, to the whole school, to all the kids that are out there being great friends, to the children of our deployed members here out of the base. And thanks for the opportunity to read a book today. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to our viewers, make sure you understand Veterans Day. It's not just the day off. I'm encouraging you to research Veterans Day, to find additional information that we didn't share this evening, and again, to engage your minds in reading, in the research, and understanding the work that our military does for our country. So thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Colonel O'Malley. Actually, when we were reading, I heard a jet fly over, and it was actually amazing. And sometimes I want to just run to the window and look. And so it's amazing driving down Broad Street and you can see the jets just fly over. They're absolutely amazing. And so I'm like a kid in a candy store when I see it. And so is my husband, but I have to remind him he's driving because I'm on the road. But thank you all for everything that you do. Thank you for joining us. And Colonel O'Malley, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a good, happy Veterans Day to all.
All right. Thank you.